Greetings and welcome back to Switch to Linux. We have another supporter stream where we talk about hardware and Linux, and I hope the guys that are on today have a lot more knowledge about this stuff than I did. I said, hey, sounds like a great topic. I know very little about it, and I actually have been running errands all day. I literally just got back. I posted the notice about the stream, and I had to leave, and I just got back like half hour ago. And so, woohoo, I made it back. And that's good. No stream on my other channel tonight. I've just executive decision. We've canceled the Christian stream for tonight. So I don't know. Or I don't know. Maybe I will. Maybe I will do something. I have an article I'd like to talk about. I haven't completely prepared for that, but I can do that off the cuff a lot better than Linux and hardware. But I will talk about some Raspberry Pi stuff, and we'll chat about a few other things as well. We got Tech. We got Dan. We got Sulby on again. How's everybody doing today?
Hello.
Hello. Hello. Yeah, and I found this toasted coconut tea. I would give it a pass, actually. It literally does taste like tree bark, and yes, I have eaten tree bark before. Yeah, I am barking up the wrong tree. But anyway, with that, how's everybody doing today?
I'm doing fine. I noticed a few days ago, and I watched one of the streams of this again, and someone asked if I was from Norway. I'm not sure who it was, but to that user, yeah, I'm from Norway. I'm from Trøndelag. Yes, I am.
Very good.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Let's see. Dan, what's going on in your world?
They are mailing out stimulus checks. I got them on Tuesday.
Ooh.
So my truck went in the shop yesterday, and while I sat in the waiting room, they put a new battery, new tires on it, and
nice.
New door switch and some other stuff just to bring it up to fully functional condition.
Nice. Very good. All right. Tech, how's it going in your world?
So, Dan, are you going to get some new hardware with that stimulus check?
When it comes to hardware, there is nothing that's catching my eye right now. I have everything that I really need. If Raspberry Pi, sure, they look cool. People are doing cool things with them, but I really don't have a purpose, nor do I want to sit there and play with it for hours to give it a purpose, to find out I really don't even want it. And it was a fad that disappeared last week,
Right.
With so many other things that we go out and impulse buy. I mean, I got tablets on the table here. I got a Bluetooth boom box, headphones. I got a pile of junk here that I don't even use that has been in the same spot for 2 years.
Yeah, I feel that. The Pine Tab had an unfortunate accident falling off the shelf, and it's built so crappy that screen shattered. I'm like, get another piece of crap out of here. Honestly.
I know that feeling. I have my old RX 580 graphics card in the closet back here.
Mm-hmm.
It's on top of a computer case. It's got boxes from all my computer builds and everything. And I go to pick it up and look at it, and one of the fan blades on it is broken off. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, you've got to be kidding. Right now, as valuable as these things are, you have to break a fan blade? I don't know how it got broken. Something here falling on it.
It's fine. That's easy. That's easy to do. For how much they're selling for, it would be worth it for you to buy a $10 fan to put in there. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And then sell it on eBay for another stimulus check.
It's probably a special spec fan.
That one will be taxed, though.
Yeah, there you go. Well, it depends on how much you sell it for and things like that, I guess. But yeah, anyway, checking in on comments really quick.
While you're doing that, I do want to just throw out there that I've had repeated issues with Gecko Linux since last week, I'm afraid. So I distro hopped again on my main desktop here, and I am using Linux Mint. So,
all right, very good. See, welcome back. Welcome back to Linux Mint. It just seems to work, doesn't it?
You, my dad, and I are all on Linux Mint together, and I haven't had the Wi-Fi or the Bluetooth disconnect on me yet. So
yeah. I believe the Bluetooth can be a little crazy, but let's see. We got Diego Marquez spammed the same message about Arch multiple times that will trigger the ban hammer. So yeah, don't do that. Fairness, greetings. How's it going there? Yeah, and Farron's over there with Banhammer, so better watch out. I'm probably gonna take Farron's side if there's some issue. I just gotta say. K Walls, how's it going there? Moonbase off Grace, take me to your leader. Doctor, the doctor's in the house. Doctor, you recommended the jab. Waffles, nice. I love me some waffles. Belgian waffles with cinnamon.
Waffles? I don't know if we're going to be suggesting new hardware for you to build in a
PC.
Yeah.
So our goal was, our goal is here. Maybe we can chat about it briefly if we have some time near the end. But what our goal is kind of talk about some of the sorry about that. Let's talk about some of the emerging technologies that are coming out. I'll talk probably most about Raspberry Pi because I actually use Raspberry Pis in production around here for really cool tasks. And then there's a lot of other devices coming up. So I thought about Pine. If Pizza jumps on, he can talk specifically about Pine if he wants to. And then we had somebody want to chat about RISC and maybe just a brief discussion about ARM processors as well would be worth it. Let's see. Excuse me. I got the coof. Linux becomes scary because of Red Hat. What? Let's see. Clearly wasn't a fan. All right. Yeah. Mint is great. Let's see. Mint has had issues from time to time, but there's been most reliable. Yeah, I agree. It is very reliable. Is that our FBI agent that jumped on, or is that just Mark? Hi, FBI agent, or is that Mark? Oh, he just did. Oh, it must be the FBI. He's like, I'm out of here.
It's Dine and Dash.
He jumped by and then disappeared. Is that the the FBI come back on, or is that Mark? I don't know. Let me know. Is that Mark or the FBI?
I'm a fuzz. I'm coming.
The fuzz is on. The fuzz is on. Let's see. Got Wally World phone in June. It caught something.
Don't misgender me.
What?
No.
Shush. I've had enough of that. I've had enough.
If
you happen to be genetically compatible with XY, I'm calling you a man. Deal with it.
I'm a man. Okay.
All right. Wow, I've hit the bottom of the comments, and the video is still on, I think. That's good. So anyway, how you doing? How you doing, Fuzz?
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm trying to log into get the logo to pop up so it's more professional.
Oh, yeah. It's for some reason when I jump over. Yours is the only one that does this. Yours,
I don't know why.
I have you on the screen right now, and it says tech, even though tech is down here. So,
yeah. Mine just says follow. It says Gister. That's what it says.
Yeah, absolutely.
Generic screen name.
Anyway, all right. So let's go ahead and chat about our topic for the day here. Let's go ahead and jump on in. And we kind of want to talk first about developing hardware, and then what we'll do is, if there is room, we will come on back in and maybe chat about a little bit of hardware as well for those who might be looking for new computers. That is a big question as well. So who wants to start?
I can start.
Right.
Yeah. The most exciting hardware. I remember the first time that I got access to some hardware that I got really excited about, and I played for years and years. Is this guy?
Oh, nice. I've never seen. Is it Nintendo? I've never seen something like that. Oh, it's a Nintendo device.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah. Is that one that was specifically an EU one, or I don't remember seeing that particular one, or is that a standard Switch? Which I think I've seen once or twice.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
But this is the Game & Watch from Nintendo. There were two manufacturers. And the other manufacturer, they were the one who created these devices. I had one of the clones of this, but I had this one with me in the turn of the millennium when supposedly the whole world would crash because of a few dates.
Yeah, I remember that.
And my idea was that if the power really did go out as a result of this, I would sit down and play this and
for until the batteries died. Yeah. The funniest thing about Y2K, right? Of course, the first country that switches clock is Australia, and there was a major storm that knocked out a lot of power in Australia, and it was like the world's ending because the power actually went out in Australia for like 7 hours or something.
I remember there was one large manufacturer of some kind in China who had problems because of the turnover. And all they did was shutting everything off and powering it back on, and everything was fine.
There you go. See, you just need to hire the dude from Office Space to come in and fix it all up, and then he'd probably just blow you up your computer. But so
alrighty, we are ready.
There you go. You're set, Mark. Whoa, let's see if you're actually. I see on Jitsi. I see your logo, but when I click you and then go back over to the screen, it shows us all now. So I don't know.
Nice.
We'll get there. All right, Tech, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, man, there's a lot. Like I think Linux is, you can basically practically make Linux do anything, and I think the most interesting thing I've seen over the last week is Intel coming out and saying that they're going to open up their fabs to ARM and RISC processors. Like they're not going to design the processors, but they're going to fab them for other companies who actually they do the design, so they would act like how Global Foundries or TSMC does. So I'm hopeful that, given that Intel has a pretty good track record in terms of like open source drivers, if they ever get to developing their own ARM or RISC processors, that they can open source those drivers or at least upstream them, so that you can get off of, I hate to say, like Intel x86, even if not Intel processors themselves. So I think that's a interesting development. Although that's not really going to get started until 2023, but still.
What excites me most about the ARM is how much more efficient they are for power. I'll talk a little bit about Raspberry Pi. I converted my NAS to a Raspberry Pi instead, and I will have that video eventually, hopefully before the end of the year. I just need to do a little bit more editing of a couple voice overlays. But yeah, I have a whole video about creating a whole NAS on my on the Raspberry Pi, and I've been running it now for about 3 weeks now. It runs every bit as good as the old Intel processor. Cut the power down to a third of the power. It's running on almost no power at all right now, and that's the power of the ARM processors. They're so much more battery efficient. They're so much more power efficient. And while I'm not a tree hugger, I do agree we need to do what we can to cut back some power, as I say, surrounded by studio lights. But
don't worry about it. They're going to replace all that power usage with electric cars.
Yeah, they will. But they're clean until you have to plug them in for a while. And they're clean when they drive. They still take an abundance of energy to fill up. So.
And they're clean until you actually have to do something with the batteries.
Yeah, that is a good point. And these batteries. These batteries, you have to recognize how crazy they are. I'm upgrading some battery banks right now, and it's going to be like $1,000 to do batteries and stuff. And what do you do with the old ones? Oh, you send them back for the center for recycling. Oh, and what do they do from there?
Wallet. How about that?
Yeah, there you go. Hey, the good news is I get $20 on each battery. $20 discount on each battery I turn back in, so I don't dump it in the landfill or something.
Shoot, you're lucky. Here they will make me pay gobs of money to recycle used electronics properly.
Well, the funny thing is they're not supposed to. So like if you need to get your car battery replaced, for example, it is in the federal law. They have to pay you to return that battery. So you'll get what's called the core charge return. So you'll get that.
Yeah, I just went through that process.
Yeah.
$18 for one lead acid battery exchanged.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine are not batteries. Mine are just it's everything from old computer monitors, motherboards, and from yesteryear that are no longer worth or damaged or no longer worth putting in production.
The last I heard, Best Buy was taking back stuff like that for recycling, but they may have changed their policy.
Interesting.
No, they still do it. They've got every Best Buy I'd ever worked in, just outside the front door, they had those like 3 like trash cans. One was for like cell phone batteries, and then laptop batteries, and there's something else.
Also, take a look, Mark, at the just call the local landfill, because it generally is free to take electronics to a landfill because they do not want you throwing them in the regular trash.
Right. Yeah, I don't want to, and I want to be. Yeah, it doesn't take a tree hugger to
call them up because if you say, I'm going to put them out of the curb, they're probably going to charge to pick them up. But if you run them to the dump, it's probably going to be free. So
yeah, they told me that they will not take a lot of it, and in order for them to take some of it, it would be a charge. Which I think is
to tell them, all right, I'm just gonna sprinkle it in trash cans all around town for the next 6 months.
Well, and this is terrible. This is terrible. But my far right wing buddy, he said, I know. He says, I know what position you're in, and it's frustrating because they have been in similar positions. Yeah. This is awful. They dug a hole.
Let's get back on track. We need to get back on track.
Go ahead.
Who do we got?
Hardware advancements in Linux.
Tech, did you have anything else? Are you good?
Oh man, there's all kinds of stuff I could talk about, but we're just gonna. I don't want to suck everything up right here.
We'll jump up to Dan. We'll jump up to Dan, and then we'll come back to you for something else. All right, Dan, go ahead.
I really don't have much to talk about. I haven't purchased any late breaking hardware. I do know, they're coming out with this RISC-V stuff, which is supposed to be a prelude to like ARM. I don't know much about it. I watched a Cold Fusion video on it, and that's about it. And I don't have a Raspberry Pi because I can't justify the cost of buying one when I have laptop computers piled up all over the place and tablets and everything else that I rarely use.
Yeah.
But as far as Linux go, Linux is a OS. It's like a big shoehorn. You can shove it into any boot and it'll boot. So, I see it moving into a lot of areas as a first pick because it's modular. You can build it to work with anything. So, I noticed when they started coming out with Raspberry Pis, the first thing they came out with was a Raspbian for Raspberry to make them operate. They didn't come out with Windows Raspberry. I haven't seen anything like that.
There is. It's an IoT, but
it's probably something that they're just dragging their feet on or something.
Yeah,
just in case. But as for new hardware goes, I don't have a need. I haven't seen. You know what? New hardware, blood pressure monitor.
There you go.
That's the latest new hardware I bought.
Walk us through then for the folks interested. Walk us through. If I wanted to get started with Linux and I'm just going to go and get some hardware to try Linux on, what would you do in that case?
Probably the most familiar route for an individual. Most individuals know how to use a computer, but probably an inexpensive laptop, one maybe 5 years old, to actually try Linux on. I would stay away from the dual core ones. I try and get, a lower end i7 or something like that. I have a couple of dual core ones around here, although they'll run 64-bit. You start up the OS and open a browser and it's done. It's all used up, if you're familiar with Raspberry Pis, or better yet, if you have a friend that's using one and knows all about them, you might want to investigate that. That would be probably a compatibility priced thing. But
I'm not sure I'd want to use a Pi for my daily driver, but
when you get a Pi, you get all the accessories that go with it: a case, a heat sink, a fan,
now though you can actually get the Raspberry Pi. It's actually a keyboard it's just a Pi embedded inside a keyboard, and you just plug in a monitor, and it's done.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I gotta admit that's pretty cool. I'm not
that's beyond
crazy
Mac.
about Pis, but that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's beyond a Mac.
Absolutely.
But that's what I would recommend is somebody get I know Toss is always talking about the ThinkPads.
Yeah, ThinkPads are really good.
The ThinkPads I've owned, they serve just as well as a weapon as a computer. They're that heavy.
It's a device to bludgeon you with.
Yes.
Yep.
You smack someone upside the skull with it while you're computing.
All right, Mark, we'll go up to you, even though it says Dan, but that's really Mark. Hardware, new emerging hardware and Linux. Thoughts? Any specific things you want to talk about?
There is something, and this is more to do with the tech enthusiast crowd. Like, on occasion, I don't agree with a lot of their stuff, but I'll catch just for giggles. I'll catch a Bitwit and Jay's 2 cents and stuff. If you're somebody that's a tech enthusiast running RGB, I think it is something that is improving, but certain software for keyboards, of course, I've not really dealt with any of it yet, but I don't plan to have RGB on my own, but a client may want it. Any kind of peripherals like keyboards and mouse that have specific applications in order to control patterns on the RGB lights and stuff. And by the way, this is useless to me. I could care less about that stuff. But, people like it. And those types of programs are typically only Windows and Mac OS based or just Windows based. And it would be nice for Linux to have something in place. Last I checked, vaguely, I remember those programs are starting to become more compatible with Linux. I think one manufacturer in particular, it's been a while since I checked on it, but maybe Logitech has some support for Linux. I can't remember. I do feel like it's slowly gaining to where they're getting support for that. But yeah, other than that, I'll say, I've had issues with my Bluetooth adapter, my Sabrent. But I don't think that's necessarily Linux per se as it is Ubuntu base. And Linux is so modular. The beautiful thing about it, if you really wanted to, you could spin your own kernel and you could have whatever support you wanted in it, potentially, right? I don't know if you could grab access to proprietary stuff or not, or how that would work, but I guess you could. I've never built my own distro, but yeah, Linux is very modular, which is awesome because it has like endless. The sky is the limit on hardware support. If you have something that doesn't work with Linux today, wait a few days and it'll work tomorrow.
Yeah, I think one of the groups that's really on the edge of this is Pine. They just have so many things they're working on. The Pine Sill, RISC-V soldering iron running open firmware. Never thought about putting an operating system on my soldering iron, but okay, I guess Pine's doing it. Pine Cube, which is an IP camera. We have, of course, the Linux phone, the Pine phone, which is a Linux phone. Pinebook Pro, which is an ARM computer. Open source watch runs Linux. There's the Pine tab. So Pine is actually one of the ones that's really cramming Linux. Let's see what we can do. Hey, let's put Linux on or at least RISC on a soldering iron. Okay, then. That sounds
They did announce their RISC-V board. I think it was this month. Pete's Loving Nerd, he does the community video updates for them. So, and he talked about it in that video, and I was like, oh, that's sweet. I don't know what I would do with a RISC-V board, but it's cool.
I mean, I don't know. The applications out there, they might just be much the same for like the Raspberry Pi. So let's go ahead and talk about that real quick. I'll monopolize the time for a brief moment. I actually use Raspberry Pis in production. One of those is for my media server. Actually more of my media box. So I have a dumb TV, the best type of TV of all. There's no microphones, no Wi-Fi connections, no connections at all to anything other than an HDMI and, the various inputs I put into it. So I plug a Raspberry Pi 2B on the back of that thing running open source. I'm using which one is it? I forget. I'm using one of the ones that runs Kodi. It's not LibreElec. It's the older one. OSCM, I think, whatever that one is. Open Source Media Center. That's it. And it works flawlessly. I can access some internet things. I can watch, some videos from plugin platforms. I can allegedly watch some videos that may or may not be in my home network. Just all sorts of fun stuff like that. And so I'm using a Raspberry Pi in production there. It's been on the back of the TV for 3 years, and that's where it lives. Of course, I just did the other one where I have an entire NAS, which is a micro-scale battery-powered NAS that runs all of my internal infrastructure of this entire office, is all run on a Raspberry Pi with an external hard drive. That's it. Runs on 0.1 amp. And it runs flawlessly. It streams music. It streams movies. It's a file server. It does backups. It will eventually have a book server on it as well. I just haven't done that yet.
The best thing about the coming single board computing market is young people of today find they have a hardware platform of devices where they can tinker and actually understand how everything is put together. Whereas a modern system, they can be overwhelmed with how things are working.
Yeah, and that's I think where the single board systems are doing well is just getting out there and teaching people. I think that if Ubuntu is one of the most popular means of onboarding new Linux users, I would say Raspberry Pi is the other. Of course, Quint started using Linux because of the Raspberry Pi. And I know a number of other people that have as well. And so they're doing a lot of good things in the education field. And most of the stuff that's running on it is is Linux. And so you're introducing a whole new world to Linux through the Raspberry Pi. So
I think you'll find that with the younger generation, they don't have a pile of legacy stuff laying around like we do. Mm-hmm. So, they can move into a Pi and, actually use it and purpose it.
I would love to move into a Pi. That would be very tasty.
Well, I have like my TV, I have my old computer hooked to that, which has plenty of RAM and it runs Linux Mint and everything else. Why do I need to repurpose that with a Raspberry Pi? Because I already own it. It works and does the job I want it to do. So you're going to find younger people as they're moving into having more than one computer, will look at a Raspberry Pi and probably get one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I would hope.
My last point of the SPC, it also it is a road, a way of new people into the world of free software and the GNU Linux and stuff, because that is yet the most used operating system to run these devices, and it teaches people that you don't have to pay up your nose for an operating system that you can tinker with, that do what you want to.
Yeah, that's one of my biggest gripes in the Linux community right now. It's like the only places you can buy a computer pre-built with Linux they cost you like the amount of money my very first computer cost. It's like, this is unnecessary. Like, my writing computer that I do full-scale writing and producing books on is a $100 computer with the lowest level processor there is. Get that thing, put MX Linux or Peppermint or something else lightweight on it, Ubuntu XFCE if that's your thing, Linux Mint XFCE, sell that. Man, you could make a Mint or a Linux Mint. But I mean, that's the type of stuff. Like, we don't. These companies are like, I get they're trying to make a profit and they should, but you're not going to onboard people onto Linux when your low scale option is $1,200 and I can go to Best Buy and pick up a computer for $400, so.
I was actually going to say, I think that with hopefully RISC-V here in the near future, we'll gain some more traction because it's open. You can do it's almost like it's almost how like FPGAs are, field programmable grid arrays. Where you can basically like customize the design and the architecture of your processor, and nobody has like an IP to it, I guess. But you can design your own, integrated circuit, and from, as I understand it, from very little chips to very large chips, I mean, to maybe even getting to the point where you could do how AMD is doing with their processors, where they're doing chiplets and then gluing them together. Apparently gluing is an actual like industry term. So I'm just not throwing that out there. But so I think that there's a lot of hope and potential for the future on something like that. I might tell people though, however, to do like Dan says, and maybe get something that's a little bit older. I don't know if I would necessarily go 5 years old, but 5 years is certainly cheaper. But Intel is, like I said, they got a great reputation in terms of their driver support on Linux, even if not all of their drivers are open source. But I agree with you as well, Tom. I mean, like Dell's like their Ubuntu developer device. I forget exactly what it is. I want to say it's like $1,100 or $1,300, something like that. Like if I recall, it's pretty expensive. So it's like, like, let's see, hold on. I got a thing right here. It's their new model. What's their new model cost? Oh, it doesn't say. Of course. Anyway, I'm sure it's expensive. But it's designed by developers, and it's like, why?
Yeah, on that really briefly, Vince says, take a look at the interview. Louis Rossman and Jerry Solar from System 76 explains why the cost of building an open hardware is a bit more than your volume manufacturers. And I agree. If you want something that's like, we are a pure, dedicated, open source, everything, I agree you're going to pay more for it. It's a premium. I completely agree. But what's to say, hey, we also have a line of cheap mass manufactured things running Linux as an introduction to Linux, and we're going to charge you $300 for them. That would be a good medium.
Yeah, I think the issue there is that people would buy, like, you're going to buy a $500 Dell laptop that's got Ubuntu on it, and it's like, well, where's my Microsoft Office? And they're like, well, if you want to use Office, you got to buy an Office 365 subscription.
Well, in that case, you just need to quit college because you don't have a computer that runs Microsoft Office.
I mean, fair. I don't disagree with you.
There's got to be some education for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that no individual hardware manufacturer wants to be responsible for that education. I mean, Dell's got a lot of great support troubleshooting for their Ubuntu page, but I don't know how well versed like their average call center person is going to be. And if you've seen some of the nightmare phone calls that have been posted to YouTube for Dell support or just Windows issues,
if you can find a Dell support agent that actually speaks coherent language, I'd be surprised. I have not had good luck with chatting with them. But while we're on the topic of Dell, that is actually one of the computers I tend to buy when I can. And just to let you guys know, the computer that I still run, the old Windows 7 one, that's like, why won't this thing die already? It's like going on 12 years old.
I want to buy a new Dell.
Yeah, I know, but I don't want to get rid of it. It's still running perfectly fine, but keep it around. But when that one goes, the next computer ready to take its place is there. It's an Omniplex. I bought it from the surplus and salvage at the local university for $75, and it runs Linux Mint perfectly fine. It's actually faster than this other one I have over here. That cost me $75. I can play around with installing Linux on it. And, that's the type of thing you look for. Look for those deals. We've been neglecting comments.
I have a computer upstairs that I installed Linux on for my brother a few years back. And now it's starting to have problem. It's no longer recognizing the wireless network, it can't connect to the wireless network where he moved to last weekend. So now I have to refurbish one of my newer systems. He had the system that broke was 2008 iMac. And it was becoming slow because we couldn't add a newer version of Linux because some hardware drivers are no longer shipped with the newer kernel. So
Yeah. I mean, if you could have problems with running 2 all those stuff, it's possible. See, Steve has a pile of pies running that in the house, and my business for various tasks like a Unify controller and also to monitor the camera systems. There you go. Yeah. 90s Microsoft told Intel what it could do. 2003 Intel was telling Microsoft what they could do better than IBM PowerPC could do it. There you go. Experience with Linux Mint has been positive and wonderful. Negative experience with Mint I've had was when stepping away from the laptop and the screen goes blank. And the laptop becomes unresponsive. I have heard people having that issue. I personally have not. With a crash the NAS with a 720p processor. I don't know what processor's in that thing. It's not necessarily a good one. Let's see. Jason at Engineering did a good job on the true CO2 cost of electric cars versus gasoline engine ones. Electric ones still come out ahead when charged with coal-fired electricity. I want to go see that video. I have questions about that, but I can't say I've sat down and done the calculations. Let's see. Put it in the burn barrel. There you go. I think that put it in the burn barrel, Mark. That's for you. Just go ahead and put those electronics in the burn barrel. And people are like, "What are you doing?" Like you're charging me to bring the electronics back, so I'm burning them.
There'll be no environmental downside at all. I promise. You can trust me. I'm somebody from the internet.
There you go. I know, right? I know. Lithium batteries need to be desulfured. Yeah. Mining for the batteries is not environmentally friendly. Yeah, all these people running around with their cool new iPads and their cool new stuff and woo, all this. Like, yeah, you do realize that buying the Apple products specifically is dangerous because they just shred those when they're done with them rather than refurb them. They just run through the shredder because
they go out of their way to stop people from fixing them.
Yeah, and that's a problem. Concept of going Arduino or Pi's GPIO access is not allowed by Intel. No, that sucks. Let's see. I can't say I've used my GPIO inputs other than running fans, but
they actually use shredded plastic and stuff like that to mix in with the road patch when they're filling the potholes. It's got computer parts and everything else in it.
Wow,
nice. It's like new pothole created. Yeah, it was running Windows.
I was surprised to find that out. I was talking to a guy that worked for the county.
Let's see. You can run a Ubuntu server on Raspberry Pi. I do actually. I have some servers running. I have a Debian one here running ISP config for an internal testing server that I use. And I actually have another Raspberry Pi Zero, which is my VPN when I'm out of the office. Yep. Let's see. Nice kitty. Yeah, he ran away, though. I don't know where kitty went. Anarita. Greetings, Anarita. Yes. Microsoft is looking to buy ARM's licenses. Uh-oh. That's exciting. Microsoft's also looking to buy...
Discord.
Yeah, they're also looking to buy Discord. If that happens, I'm jumping ship, guys. Just an FYI.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense, but I wouldn't put anything personal... or personal related on Discord whatsoever at that point.
Yeah, I
treat
did
it like Facebook.
Did somebody drop it in our meme section on the Discord where it was there it is. It's up there. Quantum Alpha put it on the Discord. You have death with the Microsoft logo going through, and it's like instant messenger Skype now is knocking on Discord store. I love that picture.
Yeah. I saw. I posted it on the Discord in one of the Discord channels. But there is a lawyer who specializes in copyright and in IT related issues, and he is not sure that what is happening is actually Microsoft buying Discord. It just as well might be that Discord is hyping this is saying out loud that look, someone is wanting to buy us, and they are wanting to go public on the stock market.
Their ultimate goal is to go public. They're not really looking into selling, but they are allowing Microsoft to make an offer.
Yeah, I have the report here. They're kind of It's speculation more than anything.
Yeah.
It was reported originally by Bloomberg News.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the first article.
Microsoft Corporation is in discussions to purchase.
Mm-hmm.
But if focused chat platform Discord.
Yeah, if you read through the article, though, it does tell you that Discord has said they're more interested in going public rather than being bought.
Yep. Microsoft failed in its attempts to buy TikTok. Oh, well.
They might be in talks about giving Microsoft a portion of the stocks that are going public.
Yeah, there you go.
It's a good or bad thing or not.
Yeah, I don't know.
My experience and overview is when companies start going IPO public and stuff like that, that's when they start going downhill. Look at American cars. I mean, they've been just going downhill and downhill and downhill in quality over the past, I don't know, since they started making them.
The danger of going public is that suddenly there are some other guys who are
there's boardroom members,
and they are telling you what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Boardroom members and other associates.
I would rather them be an independent IPO than a property of Microsoft. If they become a property of Microsoft, I jump ship from the platform. If they are, just being their own IPO and being their own crazy company, I'll probably stick with them. What's going on, Pizza?
Hello, sorry, I'm a bit tardy to the party.
That's fine.
I actually would continue to use Discord for gaming purposes only through Xbox Game Pass, and when I'm done, I just cut it off because I really never had any affinity for Discord. I thought there were better platforms out there, but now that I'm comfortable with it, if Microsoft buys it and ties it in with Xbox Game Pass, cool with me. Mm-hmm. Because I really had no connection or affinity to it. So
there's certainly people that will like that move. I'm just not one of them. Being said, I jump ship from Microsoft because I just don't like the direction they go.
Right,
and that's everybody's own personal choice.
Yeah.
Before we dive too far,
I would agree.
Before we dive too far deep into that, Pizza, do you want to talk any about hardware and Linux specifically as it goes to Pine, as you do some specific discussions with Pine?
Go ahead, Pizza. You got the floor, bud.
Sure. Give me 3 seconds to grab my Pine stuff.
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, we get a Pine demo.
Then somebody, we'll get a whole behind Pine demo here. All right, somebody else then. Talk for a few minutes. Now, I'll let me read a few more comments. 8-year-old Toshiba Satellite works great on Linux. There you go. HP, Dell, Lenovo, Toshiba, Asus here, mostly bought inexpensively, have a hardware addiction. Sleepy, if you need to talk later about your hardware addiction, I will listen to you, and I will help you through your hardware addiction. Just an FYI. So, all right.
Vince, if it really is a problem, I can take some of it off your hands.
Yeah.
One Christian brother to another, I would just...
Correct.
I literally have a friend that has stuff that goes all the way back into the 60s, vacuum tube TV sets and everything else. Then he's got into the 70s, got all these chips with all the gold pins on them and everything. His whole barn was an engineering shop, and it's full of all this stuff that I don't know how his family's going to dispose of it all when he finally passes on. I mean, it's a few dump truck loads.
I'd say they'll probably charge him a recycling fee.
But my mother's house looks like or my mother's garage looks like an episode of Hoarders. I kid you not. It's like, oh Lord. It's pretty ugly. Fortunately, the house is significantly cleaner.
But if you have all this technology from back in the 60s, then...
well, he's got it from all the way back in the 60s, all the way to surface mount components for today's use.
I guess some of it you could probably sell, but... All right.
One thing that they could do is turn it into a museum and make something out of it.
Yeah, there you go. All right,
that would be feasible if it was in a town, but it's way out in the boonies.
Just sell it to somebody. All right. Pizza's back. So, Pizza, give us some take on hardware, Linux, and Pine 64, if you could.
Pine.
Can I talk about Linux Mobile specifically and not Pine?
Yeah, whatever you want to talk about.
Yes.
All right. So I've been into Linux on phones. I got the Pine phone in April of last year, and it's pretty interesting because given that not everything is complete on them, it's kind of cool to like watch Linux grow from something that isn't really usable to something that can be usable. So right here I have a Pine phone. So the Pine phone is relatively low spec, but they are also selling it for dirt cheap. It's like $150 for one. And the point of it is kind of to get as many people working on Linux mobile as possible. So it's priced that way so that developers who want one can easily get their hands on one.
What carriers does it work with?
It works with, I think they carry a more expensive modem that should work with pretty much all carriers, according to someone I know who's a post-market OS developer. I was just talking about that today with him. So it should work with basically all of them as long as your bands are supported.
Okay.
Unless I think the Brave Hearts might have I'm not 100% sure on this. I could be wrong, but I think the Brave Hearts support less carriers, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
Okay. So basically, just look into the specs before you buy, and then see.
Yeah. And it cannot be a daily driver yet. There's still the UI. I mean, it's now in beta, so they have a new beta edition Pine phone, and it's marketed as beta edition because the Pine 64 team thinks that it's ready for beta. So, but it's still not full release. So, you're going to have your battery life isn't going to be as good because power management on mainline Linux isn't the greatest yet. The camera is still very work in progress. So it's like pretty choppy and the photos aren't amazing. Stuff like that you're going to have issues with. So, but the other option is you can get another phone like a Nexus 5 right here. And there's a couple Linux OSs there's a couple smaller Linux OSs, not smaller, but there's a smaller amount of Linux OSs, but they tend to run better. So I could put Ubuntu Touch. I have LunaOS running right now for a video I'm working on. And there's also post-market OS support, although actually the Pine phone supports post-market OS better than the Nexus 5 does. But for LunaOS and Ubuntu Touch especially, for a while I was daily driving Ubuntu Touch on this thing. It's fully usable 100%. It is running quite an old Linux kernel, so there might be some security issues with that, but everything works as intended. I can make phone calls, I can text, I can take photos, I can browse the web. Ubuntu Touch on a Nexus 5, as long as you don't care about like proprietary Android apps, it works 100% great. So an older Android phone like the Nexus 5 or the OnePlus One is also a great option.
Nice guy says in the chat, Pine phone experience works with Verizon, and Manjaro seems to work better than Ubuntu Touch. Did you try out Manjaro at all?
Yeah, so I think that Phosh and Plasma Mobile are cool, but they are pretty buggy as desktop environments themselves. It has nothing to do with the OS. And I think that Ubuntu Touch, Lomary, had Canonical backing it a while ago, like maybe I think 3 years ago, because Lomary was Unity 8. It's just renamed. Okay. And so it's very stable. It's by far the most complete DE for the Pine phone, in my opinion. So as for the desktop environment and like most bugs you'd experience on it itself, Ubuntu Touch is probably the most stable. However, Ubuntu Touch is also built to run on Android phones like this, and it's not designed to be built and ran on a mainline phone. So because of that, most distros that don't run on Android work 100% fine on the Pine phone, like Post-Market OS, Mobian, and Manjaro. All of that functionality works 100% on the Pine phone, whereas Ubuntu Touch is kind of built to run on devices like older Android phones and stuff with Helium and everything. So it's taking them a while to get all that functionality working on Ubuntu Touch. It's behind on the kernel, so Ubuntu Touch only has 60 FPS for its refresh rate instead of 30, which there's a huge difference when you use it. It doesn't support the camera yet, whereas a lot of other distros do. Phone calls and stuff cut out. So in terms of the UI and user experience, Ubuntu Touch is designed the best, it's the most stable, and it's the most consistent. But in terms of functionality, a lot of the other OSs like Manjaro run better.
Now, I thought, if I remember correctly, the default for it was going to be a Plasma base. Is that right?
Yeah, it's running Manjaro Plasma.
Okay, Manjaro Plasma. How's Plasma work as a UI?
It's very Android inspired. I think Phosh is a lot more complete than Plasma, but Pine64 as a company has big ties with Plasma and Manjaro. You know, they ship the Pinebook Pros with Manjaro Plasma and everything. So to them, it makes sense because they've already partnered on other things. So, and I think that the extra attention for Plasma Mobile is definitely going to improve it. As a matter of fact, it already has. When they announced the Plasma was starting to kind of not get as much development as all the other options were. And then suddenly the Plasma Community Edition came out, and suddenly it went from being one of the worst DEs for the Pine phone to quickly being almost as stable as Phosh. Not quite as stable as Phosh, but it's getting really close. And now that Pine64 as a company has put eyes on that project, it's getting a lot more development.
Mm-hmm. How long does the battery last?
So I haven't been able to test that 100% because I have a Brave Heart, and the Brave Heart has a battery issue on its motherboard where the battery just drains and drains even when the phone's completely turned off. Mm-hmm. So the battery life on a Brave Heart is nowhere near as good. I'll be able to test that later since I just ordered a second Pine phone that isn't a Brave Heart, and that has that hardware issue fixed. So with that, you should be getting around 8 or 9 hours a day from other people I've heard. I haven't tested it myself because of that. But it also varies by distro because there's something called Crust Power Management where it basically, when you lock your phone's screen, it basically keeps running your modem in the background so that it can turn itself on if you get a text message or something. Mm-hmm. So, and different versions of Crust Deep Sleep work better. So like, obviously, even the earliest version of Crust Deep Sleep runs way better than the not having it. But at the same time, the difference between the earliest version of Crust Deep Sleep and the latest version is substantial in terms of the battery life increase you'll get. And so distros like Ubuntu Touch kind of run older versions of Crust, whereas a lot of the more bleeding edge distros like Manjaro and Arch Arm are going to have newer versions, which will give you better battery life.
Okay. And so, we all want to know, how well does the headphone jack work?
It works just as you'd expect it.
Not being very brave, I just want to say.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. Yeah. For bringing Braveheart. I mean.
What's interesting about the Pine phone is on a desktop, the bleeding edge ones are obviously not as stable as like more slow moving distros. But on the Pine phone, the faster ones, the faster moving distributions are the ones that are the most stable because whenever something's broken, it gets fixed the fastest and it gets new features that are essential the fastest, and it will have better power management.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Very cool. All right. We're kind of coming up on the 8 o'clock, and I've not completely decided. Am I streaming in 1 hour, guys, or not?
Take a night off, man.
Take a night off? All right. I'm going to take a night off. I'm going to go take a night off and maybe go work on my other project for a little bit. Relax. Yeah, we'll do that. So no stream on the Christian channel tonight. So, all right. Courageous question. I know, Vince. That was a very courageous question of mine. Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's go with some final thoughts. We'll go back down to the bottom and then roll up. So, Salbu, what are your final thoughts?
The biggest issue with Linux and hardware, obviously, is drivers. And in my experience, NVIDIA cards are the biggest trouble spot. even Linus Torvalds said that in a famous talk 10 years ago, back in Finland, where he lifted his finger at the camera directing at NVIDIA when he stated his opinion of how they are doing business.
Yes, and that was that finger right there for
yeah,
you guys watching.
the middle finger. Yeah. So, but if you don't need any fast, if having a free drivers is what's important, Intel graphics is the way to go. They always work. And for the power that they have, they're really good. They don't have an awesome power, but if you're not in the gaming, then you don't need it anyway. Such as me.
All right, Tech, final thoughts.
Well, speaking of Intel graphics drivers, apparently they are bringing Linux ray tracing support to their dedicated graphics cards that are going to be, well, they've already got the driver out, but the graphics cards themselves, when they are announced and released later this year, they're going to have out-of-the-box ray tracing support on Linux. So, Dan, maybe you can get yourself off of whatever you're using now if it's not too expensive. Maybe you can beat the box to one of the graphics cards.
I actually have an NVIDIA card in my box, and it's not outdated yet.
I'm crushed. You got to use what you can.
There you go. Dan, final words.
I'm really happy to hear that the Pine project is getting as much attention as it is, and it wasn't just a fad thing that came in and just faded away. That's really amazing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see it develop. That just looks
I am too. As far as the Pi project goes, I don't have a purpose yet for one, so we're gonna leave that on the back burner. Maybe someday I'll be able to get one because something around here will become too obsolete.
Yeah, there you go.
And
the newest model of Pi's now is like $50.
Like I said, the younger generation where they don't have very much accumulated technology already would probably jump all over it and play with them. But, for somebody that's already got a bunch of technology around that he doesn't use anymore and is looking actually for places to dispose of it, just like, Yates Networks over there's problem. I got kind of the same problem myself. But here we have in our township a yearly disposal plan for that stuff where they take a weekend before Memorial Day and they have a bunch of trucks and stuff at the high school, and you can take your stuff up there and drop it off there, and they'll dispose of it for you.
Yeah.
But Linux is also coming a long way as well. The LMDE that I'm using is coming into its own. It keeps getting stuff from the Bullseye branch of Debian, and it's the packages are getting newer and stuff like that, and it's actually a rock solid distro. If you don't like the regular Mint, try the LMDE.
Very good. Excellent. And the Fuzz, who's now pretending to be Dan Kelly. What's your final words?
The Fuzz.
Oh, you said Dan Kelly. It took me a minute to register.
No, it's your screen is now saying Dan.
He's got messed up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say Linux is very modular. Like I said earlier, I'll say that statement again. If your hardware in Linux doesn't work today, it may in given time. The fact that Linux is modular means it can work with limitless hardware configurations and whatnot.
Yeah.
Check me out on America's Finest. That is my personal channel. I think YouTube is suppressing it big time. It's a cover channel. I just have a few covers out, but I've
everything that's not like
uploading.
Yeah, everything's not CNN and Fox.
It's what it is. I speak my mind on the internet, and they see my comments and they like to delete my comments and hide my stuff. And I'm like, I see you, Facebook, and there's alternatives out there like Minds and Rumble, because I know. Tom, don't mind me saying that. Yeah. Check Tom out on these alternative platforms, Minds and Rumble. Thank you for coming out.
This channel is on Rumble and BitChute as well. My Christian one, I just created one. If you guys haven't seen Josh Who TV is another alternative one. It's kind of run by one guy, but he really knows what he's doing. He actually has his own Linux distribution as well, which is based on Linux Mint. I want to look at it eventually. But he actually has deals with... I don't know how much of that I can say publicly, but he's got some interesting deals and things that make his platform work really well. He actually has his platform can restream into a number of different platforms as well. So my Christian stuff is slowly moving over to that one there as well. And eventually I'll put Switch to Linux other places. Who knows? Maybe in a couple months or two, I'll reach back out to Library and see where they're standing these days.
I have country music going up tonight. There will be very few of those.
We still love you, Mark. It's okay.
I know. I'm not the biggest fan of country music either, but this one I really did a fine and dandy job.
I'm sure that you do know what happens.
I used to play bass in a country music band.
Yeah, I like playing country music backwards because I get my house back and my car back and my dog back and my house back. You know.
Yeah.
All right.
There you go.
Pizza. What's your final words?
I was a bit tardy to the party, so I didn't hear like the beginning of the live stream.
That's fine.
Just mostly because I have like a mandatory time where I have to be outside, and so But I loaded up the part on my phone.
You must be outside. What are you in prison? Are you in prison, Pizza?
No. I can make it look like I'm in a prison.
There you go.
Federally mandated 30 minutes outside.
Yeah, but I guess check out if you're interested in more mobile Linux stuff. Check out, I guess, my channel, Pizza Loving Nerd. I'm about to get a bunch of new hardware in April, including a Librem 5 and a Volaphone.
Absolutely awesome.
So I might be covering more hardware than just the Pine phone, and I yield my time.
All right, sounds good, man. All right, well, we will go ahead and wrap up here. Thanks for watching, everybody. And no Christian stream tonight on the other channel. I'm going to take a night off because these guys have all encouraged me to take a night off, and I probably need it. So anyway, we will catch you guys tomorrow with the weekly news roundup. Enjoy yourselves. And
thanks, everybody.
Go open source.
Later.